In the desolate expanse of the outlands, where the sky hung heavy with the promise of peril, Lon, a hunter renowned for his prowess, rode. His horse's hooves beat a steady rhythm against the barren earth, echoing in the eerie silence. Clad in worn leather armor, his blond hair cascaded from beneath a black tricorn hat, framing a face marked by the scars of countless battles. His highwayman coat fluttered in the wind, while his hands, resting on the hilt of a long sword and the stock of a rifle with a bayonet, spoke of readiness for whatever lay ahead. As Lon approached a small, desolate village, a chill ran down his spine. The village, ravaged and forsaken, was a tableau of destruction. Houses lay in ruin, their walls crumbling, and the air was thick with an unspoken horror. Suddenly the ground trembled, and from the earth and shadows, grotesque beings began to emerge. These creatures, their bodies a horrifying patchwork of decay and corruption, moved with a haunting, jerky gait. Their flesh, rotting and torn, clung to exposed bones, and their eyes, sunken and devoid of life, glowed with a malevolent light. Some dragged themselves with broken limbs, while others loomed tall, their twisted forms an abomination of what was once human. With a swift motion, Lon dismounted, drawing his longsword. His eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the horde of these abominations shambling towards him. "Come then," he muttered, bracing himself. The battle was a furious dance of steel and survival. Lon's sword cut through the creatures with lethal precision, his movements a blend of grace and brutality. He twirled, slicing a creature's head clean off, its decomposed brain matter spilling out, then pivoted, driving his bayonet through another's chest, piercing its blackened heart. Amidst the chaos, a sinister figure emerged, Azurgil, the necromancer devilkin. His demonic features twisted in a macabre grin. He commanded these monstrosities with a mere gesture, his voice a dark whisper. "Rise, my minions! Overwhelm him!" Lon faced Azurgil, his stance unyielding. "Your tricks end here, devilkin," he declared. The air crackled with tension as the two adversaries circled each other. Azurgil unleashed his infernal powers, causing the creatures to explode in showers of gore and entrails. Lon dodged nimbly, closing in. The devilkin, in response, conjured skeletal warriors, their bones clattering as they advanced, their hollow eye sockets glowing ominously. The fight escalated, a maelstrom of magic and might. Lon deftly avoided an exploding corpse, then lunged, his sword aimed at Azurgil's heart. "You're outmatched!" he shouted. Azurgil, surprised by Lon's tenacity, retaliated with a surge of dark energy, but Lon, driven by a hunter's instinct, anticipated and sidestepped, his sword finding its mark. Azurgil staggered, disbelief etched on his demonic visage. With a final thrust, Lon ended the necromancer's reign of terror. Azurgil fell, his last breath a hiss of defeat. The monstrous horde, no longer bound by his will, collapsed into lifeless heaps. Lon stood amidst the carnage, his breathing heavy but steady. He sheathed his sword, a silent vow to never relent in his quest for justice. As Lon searched through the remnants of the village, his keen ears caught a faint, desperate plea. "Please, help!" He followed the sound to a shadowed alcove, where he found a man, crumpled against the wall. The man's eyes were wide with a terror that spoke of unspeakable horrors witnessed. His voice trembled as he clutched at Lon's cloak. "My daughter! They took her!" he sobbed, the words choked with emotion. "The cultists of Uro, they came at night, like shadows with eyes of fire." Lon knelt beside him, his expression a mask of steely resolve tempered with compassion. "Tell me more," he urged gently, his hand resting on the shoulder of the trembling man. "They wore robes, black as the void," the man whispered, his eyes darting as if expecting the cultists to emerge from the shadows. Their leader, a figure cloaked in darkness, spoke of a ritual, a sacrifice. "My little Mara, she's only 7. I tried to fight, but they were too many." Lon's eyes hardened, the lines of his face set in grim determination. "I will find them," he vowed, his voice low but unwavering. "I will bring Mara back to you." The man's hands grasped Lon's, his eyes brimming with a mix of hope and despair. "Please, she is all I have left." The cultists spoke of the abandoned fortress to the north, where the land is cursed and the dead rest uneasy. Lon stood up, his silhouette outlined against the dim light filtering through the broken village. "Stay here, find safety among the ruins. I will venture north and confront these cultists. This I swear." The man nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "May the spirits guide you, hunter." Lon turned to leave, then paused and looked back. "What is your name, father?" "Joran," the man replied, his voice gaining a fraction of strength. Lon nodded solemnly. "Rest now, Joran. I will return with Mara." With that vow, Lon set forth, his path now entwined with a quest that would lead him to confront knights, guardians, and the very depths of the underworld, a journey that would test his mettle against the darkest forces imaginable. In the heart of a dense, ominous forest, Lon trekked on the most direct path to the cultists' fortress. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, the forest itself seemingly whispering secrets and dangers, its shadows dancing like specters in the corner of his eye. As he navigated this perilous terrain, Lon's instincts screamed of an impending threat. His senses, honed by years of survival, were on high alert. Suddenly, from the dark embrace of the forest, figures emerged, encircling him with silent, deadly intent. These warriors, bearing the mark of the cult, were a terrifying sight. Their armor was adorned with bones, each piece a grotesque trophy from past victims, arranged in macabre patterns that spoke of their dark deeds. The air around them was thick with a festering smell, a putrid mix of decay and unwashed bodies. Their skin, visible beneath the gaps in their armor, was pale and sickly, almost luminous in the forest's dim light. It stretched tightly over their gaunt frames, giving them an almost skeletal appearance. Their eyes, cold and lifeless, held the emptiness of the damned. Lon took a moment to quickly assess these ghastly adversaries. He counted their numbers, studied their formation, and eyed their weaponry, a mix of ancient blades and dark magic. It was clear that a head-on assault would be folly. He needed to be cunning, to turn the forest, this natural labyrinth, to his advantage. As the warriors moved in unison, their approach coordinated and lethal, Lon sprang into action. His movements were a blur of agility and precision, each step and turn calculated to counter their advances. The forest became his ally, the trees and shadows his accomplices in this deadly dance. Lon led the warriors into increasingly difficult terrain, forcing them to ascend steep inclines and navigate through dense underbrush. Their heavy armor, while formidable, became a liability in the uneven and treacherous forest floor. Throughout the battle, Lon's skills as a seasoned hunter were on full display. He wielded his longsword with deadly grace, each strike deliberate and fatal. His rifle, usually reserved for distant targets, became an extension of his will in close quarters. His tactics were not of brute force, but of intelligence and foresight, outmaneuvering the warriors at every turn. As the confrontation wore on, Lon started to gain the upper hand. He exploited chinks in their bone-laden armor and capitalized on their faltering coordination. One by one, the cult's warriors fell until only silence remained. Standing amidst the fallen, Lon was victorious, but not without cost. His body bore the marks of battle, a testament to the warrior's skill. With renewed determination, Lon resumed his journey. The forest, once a hostile environment teeming with ambush, now seemed almost respectful of his passage, the path ahead clearer and less foreboding. Deep in the foreboding heart of the forest, as Lon neared the stronghold of Uro, the air grew thick with a sense of impending doom. The twisted trees seemed to whisper warnings, and the shadows danced with a life of their own. As Lon advanced through the dense, shadow-laden forest towards the stronghold of Uro, the air grew thick with ominous portents. The gnarled trees around him seemed to whisper foreboding messages, and the darkness itself appeared to shift and move with a life of its own. Suddenly, the oppressive gloom was pierced by a radiant beam of light, and in its brilliance appeared a creature of awe and majesty. This guardian, an ethereal blend of the avian and the humanoid, stood tall and imposing. Its skin shimmered like the midnight plumage of a raven, glossy and deep, yet it bore no feathers. Enormous, majestic wings, resplendent with a celestial light, unfurled from its back, casting a serene glow in the dark forest. The creature's face was a striking amalgam of beauty and intimidation, dominated by a long, curved beak reminiscent of a raven's, while its eyes glowed like twin stars, piercing and wise. Its hands and feet, ending in sharp, gleaming talons, hinted at a fearsome strength. A mane of dark, flowing dreadlocks framed its face, adding to its mystical aura. Lon, momentarily taken aback by this otherworldly apparition, cautiously stepped forward. "Who are you, being of light and shadow? Why do you stand in my path?" The creature's voice was a melody of power and grace. "I am a sentinel, a watcher of truths unseen, guardian not of this earthly realm, but of the realms beyond. Your quest, noble though it may be, is entwined in mysteries deeper than the surface you tread." Though his hand instinctively rested on his sword, Lon's stance softened as he spoke. "My purpose is clear. I seek to rescue a child from the clutches of the cult. My honor binds me to this cause. The guardian gazed deeply into Lon's soul with its bright star-like eyes. Your bravery is commendable, yet the path you embark upon is veiled in illusions. The child you seek is a mere piece in a complex puzzle, a play of light and shadow in a grander scheme. Unwavering, Lon responded with a resolute tone. Regardless of the larger scheme, I cannot turn a blind eye to an innocent's plight. Acknowledging Lon's steadfastness, the guardian nodded, its gaze never leaving Lon's. Then proceed with your quest, but tread carefully. The revelations you may find could shake the very foundations of your beliefs. With these cryptic words, the guardian disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind an ephemeral glow and an air of profound gravity. Lon, filled with a renewed sense of purpose mixed with contemplation, pressed on towards Uro, the guardian's enigmatic warnings echoing in his mind. His journey ahead promised not only peril, but also revelations that might challenge his understanding of reality. As Lon stepped into the heart of Uro, the city's oppressive aura enveloped him. The grand yet decaying buildings stood as silent sentinels, their facades a testament to a once magnificent city now lost to darkness and despair. The air was heavy with the scent of magic and decay, a palpable reminder of the city's duality. With a determined stride, he made his way to the central stronghold, the epicenter of the city's foreboding energy. The fortress, a looming structure of stone and dark enchantments, was the domain of the Witch Lord, a being cloaked in fear and dark folklore. Confronting the guards with a mix of stern persuasion and veiled threats, Lon secured his entry into the heart of darkness. The throne room was a chilling sight, a perfect union of grandeur and dread. Symbols of dark magic adorned its walls, casting eerie, flickering shadows across the chamber. At its center, on a throne of bones and shadow, sat the Witch Lord, his presence a blend of malevolence and regal poise. Lon stepped forward, his voice echoing with authority and desperation. I am here for the child, Mara. You will return her to me now. Her fate is not a matter for your dark whims. The Witch Lord, a tall figure draped in robes that seemed woven from the night itself, regarded Lon with an amused sneer. Ah, the brave hunter comes for the girl. How noble, yet she is no longer within these walls. The underworld has claimed her, taken by demons for purposes you cannot fathom. Lon's grip tightened on his sword's hilt, his eyes burning with a mix of anger and resolve. Your games end now, Witch Lord. I have already dealt with Azergil and your scouts. Do not think I will hesitate to do the same with you. The Witch Lord's amusement faded, replaced by a glint of interest. You've bested Azergil? Intriguing, but threats are meaningless here, Hunter. This is my realm. Before the Witch Lord could continue, one of his guards, angered by Lon's audacity, lunged towards him. In a fluid, lethal motion, Lon drew his sword and struck, the blade finding its mark in the guard's throat, silencing the guard forever, blood pooling on the floor. The room fell into a tense silence, the remaining guards cautiously stepping back. Turning back to the Witch Lord, Lon's voice was ice. Every last one of you if needed. Now tell me where the girl is. The Witch Lord stood, his eyes now reflecting a measure of respect. Follow me, Hunter, he said, leading Lon through dark, winding corridors to a deep, underground chamber. There, an ancient gateway, worn by time and etched with sinister runes, stood as a portal to the underworld. As the cultists began their incantation to open the gateway, the air filled with a palpable sense of dread. The gateway groaned open, revealing a pit of unspeakable horrors, the path to the underworld. Lon, his resolve stealing further, prepared to venture into the abyss. I will bring her back, no matter what lies beyond, he declared. The Witch Lord, watching Lon with a mix of wariness and anticipation, spoke. Be wary, Hunter. The underworld is a realm of chaos and torment. You may find more than you bargained for. With those ominous words echoing in his ears, Lon steeled himself for the descent, ready to face the terrors of the underworld to bring Mara back to the world of the living. His determination unshaken, he stepped into the gaping maw of the gateway. As Lon stepped through the ancient gateway, the air shifted ominously around him. He had entered the underworld, a realm cloaked in despair and darkness. Its landscape was a twisted mockery of the world above, with jagged rocks and eerie, oppressive atmosphere pressing down on him. Navigating through this hostile environment, Lon was alert to the lurking shadows, where malevolent entities whispered threats from the darkness. The path was a labyrinth of obstacles, each one a test of his resolve and skill. Deep within this underworld, in a network of caverns beneath Uro, Lon's journey was abruptly halted. Before him stood Garfoyle, a devil of formidable stature. Towering like a grotesque giant, Garfoyle's head was a fearsome ram's skull, its hollow eye sockets glowing ominously. His body was a mass of sinewy muscles, covered in coarse, dark fur, with hands ending in cruel claws and hooves clicking against the stone floor. Garfoyle fixed his glowing eyes on Lon, his voice a deep, guttural rumble. "You tread where you do not belong, living one. This is the realm of the dead, and your presence here is an affront." Lon, undeterred by the devil's menacing form, responded with a steely resolve, "I have come for the child, Mara, and I will not be turned back by the likes of you." With a sinister grin, Garfoyle lunged forward, initiating a ferocious duel. The cavern echoed with the sound of their battle, a harrowing symphony of steel clashing against dark magic. Garfoyle's strength and magical prowess were terrifying, each attack a whirlwind of destruction aimed at Lon. In response, Lon relied on his agility and combat experience. He moved with calculated precision, evading the devil's brutal assaults. Lon's strategy was to find a weakness in Garfoyle's defense, exploiting it with quick and accurate strikes. The battle reached its peak when Lon, seizing an opportunity, struck a decisive blow. The impact of his sword sent a shockwave through the cave, momentarily staggering the devil. Wounded but alive, Garfoyle grudgingly acknowledged Lon's victory. "You have bested me, Hunter," he growled. "Continue on your quest, but beware, the challenges ahead are greater than any you've faced." With Garfoyle's defeat, Lon resumed his descent into the underworld, each step taking him deeper into its heart. His resolve was strengthened, yet he remained vigilant, aware that the greatest dangers of this dark realm still awaited him. Lon's journey through the underworld was a relentless trial against a landscape of unimaginable harshness. He navigated through a terrain where fire and brimstone reigned, the ground beneath his feet jagged and unstable. The air was stifling, filled with oppressive heat and noxious fumes that tested his physical endurance at every turn. As he ventured deeper, Lon encountered various demonic entities. Each demon presented a unique and horrifying challenge, with attributes that were as terrifying as they were diverse. One demon might lash out with whips of flame, while another would attempt to ensnare him with tendrils of shadow. These confrontations pushed Lon to the edge of his combat skills, demanding adaptability and quick thinking to overcome each new adversary. In the rare moments of respite between these battles, Lon sought information about Mara's whereabouts. He interrogated defeated demons, their grudging words providing fragments of insight. Sometimes he would overhear conversations between lesser demons, gleaning bits of useful information from their idle chatter. The underworld itself, with its ominous landscapes and cryptic symbols, also served as a source of clues, guiding him ever closer to Mara. Lon's approach in this infernal realm was a careful blend of stealth, combat prowess, and cunning. He knew that recklessness could lead to unnecessary confrontations, draining the strength he would need for the more formidable foes ahead. His journey was not just a test of brute force, but of strategic thinking and resourcefulness. Despite the toll of exhaustion and injuries, Lon's determination remained unshaken. He demonstrated remarkable resilience, pushing through the physical and mental strain that the underworld inflicted upon him. His resolve was a beacon that shone even in the darkest depths of despair. Gradually, Lon began to piece together Mara's location. The information he had gathered started to form a coherent picture, with certain patterns and landmarks emerging as signposts guiding him forward. As he neared what he sensed to be the heart of the demon's domain, Lon prepared for what could be the final and most dangerous confrontation of his quest. He checked his weapons, ensuring they were as ready as he was, and steeled his mind for the challenges that lay ahead. With a clearer direction and a reinforced resolve, Lon continued his perilous journey through the underworld. The path grew increasingly treacherous as he approached the demon's stronghold, each step taking him closer to Mara and the culmination of his harrowing quest. Lon's approach to Castle Avergorn was met with a sight both daunting and imposing. The structure loomed ominously deep within the underworld, its towering spires and thick dark walls casting a shadow of ancient power and malevolence. The castle stood as a stark embodiment of the evil and darkness pervading this realm, its grandiose and intimidating architecture designed to instill fear and demonstrate the might of its occupants. As Lon neared the main entrance, he found it heavily guarded by demonic entities. Their grotesque forms and menacing presence did not deter him. Instead, they fueled his determination. With skill and resolve, Lon engaged in a fierce battle at the gates, his sword cutting through demonic flesh, his movements a testament to his resolve to infiltrate the stronghold. Once inside, the castle's interior presented a labyrinth of challenges. Lon faced conflict after conflict as he made his way through the dimly lit halls. Each corridor brought new adversaries, and every room was a battleground, with demonic guards and treacherous traps hindering his progress. Lon's advancement through the castle was a strategic endeavor. He utilized a blend of stealth and combat prowess, turning the architecture of the castle to his advantage. The narrow corridors became his allies, and the shadowy alcoves provided cover for ambushes, allowing him to surprise and overcome his foes. Throughout his journey deeper into the castle, Lon encountered a variety of denizens from the underworld, each more formidable than the last. These encounters tested both his physical abilities and mental fortitude, pushing him to the limits of his endurance and skill. Finally, after a relentless advance, Lon reached the grand doors of the throne room. The large, ornate doors stood as the final barrier between him and the culmination of his quest. He paused, gathering his strength and resolve, preparing himself for the most perilous confrontation yet. Standing before the entrance to the throne room, Lon took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. He steeled himself, ready to face whatever lay beyond those doors. The air was thick with anticipation, the gravity of the moment weighing heavily upon him. With a deep breath, Lon pushed open the doors, ready to confront Avergorn himself and whatever else awaited him in the heart of darkness. As Lon entered the throne room of Castle Avergorn, he was instantly confronted by a striking figure. The Devilkin before him exuded an aura of power and danger. With long white hair flowing down his muscular yet lithe frame and piercing red eyes that glowed with a fiery intensity, he was an intimidating presence. The small, sharp horns protruding from his skull only added to his fearsome appearance. In his hands he wielded twin daggers, each forged from the jawbone of a devil, their edges shimmering with a sinister energy. "So, the human world sends its champion," the Devilkin remarked, his voice echoing with dark amusement. "Let's see if you live up to your reputation." With a swift and elegant motion, he attacked. The daggers moved with deadly precision, cutting through the air in a dance of death. Each strike was both graceful and vicious, a testament to his mastery over his unique weapons. Lon drew his sword in response, meeting the Devilkin's assault with skill and determination. The sound of clashing metal filled the room as Lon countered the barrage of dagger strikes. His own style was a blend of precision and tactical acumen, each movement calculated to defend and strike back effectively. The duel grew more intense by the moment, with the Devilkin displaying exceptional agility and skill. He fought with a fluidity that was almost hypnotic, his daggers darting in and out with lethal intent. However, as the battle progressed, the Devilkin's initial excitement began to wane, his expression shifting to one of grudging respect. It was at this moment that a powerful voice resonated through the chamber, halting their duel. "That is enough," the imposing voice boomed, commanding the attention of both warriors. The Devilkin ceased his attack, stepping back with a fluid grace. He looked at Lon, a hint of respect in his gaze. "My name is Lycoilith," he finally introduced himself, acknowledging the skill of his opponent. "Remember it, our battle is not over. This was just an appetizer, mortal." With a respectful nod to Lycoilith, Lon turned to face the master of this castle, readying himself for the true challenge that awaited him. The air in the throne room crackled with anticipation. In the throne room of Avergorn, a chamber as ominous as the ruler it housed, Lon confronted a being of grotesque power. Avergorn, with massive wings, a serpentine neck, and a canine visage, stood as a testament to the underworld's horrors. Beside this monstrous figure, almost hidden in his shadow, was a small girl, Mara, the reason for Lon's perilous journey. She appeared unharmed, her eyes showing no sign of fear or distress. As Lon processed this unexpected scene, Avergorn's deep voice broke the silence. "Surprised, hunter? The girl was not seized by force. She was given to me by the men of Euro, a trade for golden power," he revealed with a hint of contempt. Mara stepped forward, her voice surprisingly steady. "It's true, my father traded me to save himself, but here, with Avergorn, I've found kindness. This place, it's become a home for me, where I'm valued." Lon, his hand still on his sword, struggled to reconcile this revelation with his mission. "You mean to tell me this journey, all the battles fought, were for a lie? A rescue that was never needed?" Avergorn nodded. Humans and their greed often lead to unnecessary bloodshed. I have no vile intent towards Mara. She is safer here than with those who betrayed her. Lon looked at Mara, seeking confirmation in her eyes. Is this truly what you want, to stay here? In this dark realm? Mara nodded, her gaze unwavering. I do. I never belonged there, not really. Here I am more than just a pawn in someone else's schemes. Faced with a choice that defied his every expectation, Lon lowered his sword. Then I will respect your wish, Mara. This place, these shadows, they are not for me to judge. Avergorn's eyes narrowed slightly, assessing Lon's response. A wise choice, Hunter. Not all battles are worth fighting. Lon turned to leave, his mission complete in a way he had never anticipated. Take care of her, Avergorn. She deserves that much. With a final glance back at Mara, who stood confidently beside Avergorn, Lon exited the throne room. The decision weighed heavily on him, but in his heart he knew it was the right one. The journey back to the surface world would be a time for reflection, a time to ponder the complex tapestry of choices and consequences. After emerging from the underworld, Lon's mind was set on vengeance. The first step in his quest was to gather information about the current situation in Uro and the whereabouts of Mara's father. Knowing the importance of accurate intelligence, Lon decided to call upon his fellow hunters, a brotherhood known for their skills in tracking and gathering information. Lon made his way to the clandestine meeting place of the hunters, a secluded spot hidden away from the prying eyes of the world. As he arrived, the other members of the clan were already waiting, their faces etched with anticipation and curiosity. The hunters, each skilled in their own right, were a formidable group, united by a bond of loyalty and shared purpose. I need your help, Lon began, his voice resonant with the gravity of his request. The king of Uro and a man, a father who betrayed his own child, must answer for their actions. The hunters listened intently as Lon detailed the deception and betrayal that had led to Mara's plight. Murmurs of disbelief and anger rippled through the group, each member empathizing with Lon's desire for justice. We need to know everything. The movements of the king, the location of the father, and the current dynamics in Uro, Lon continued, outlining his plan. Any piece of information could be crucial. The hunters nodded in agreement, each understanding the importance of the task at hand. They split into smaller groups, each tasked with a specific aspect of the information gathering. Some would infiltrate Uro to observe and report back on the king's activities and the mood of the city. Others would track down Mara's father, using their network of informants and their own tracking skills. As the meeting concluded, the hunters dispersed, melting into the shadows to begin their respective missions. Lon watched them go, a sense of camaraderie and purpose strengthening his resolve. With the hunters at his side, he was not alone in his quest for justice. The information they gathered would be the foundation upon which he would build his plan of vengeance. The hunt had begun, and the predators were now the prey. Lon's quest for vengeance led him first to the doorstep of Mara's father. The information gathered by the hunters had been precise, directing him to a small, unassuming house on the outskirts of a village, far from the grandeur and corruption of Uro's court. As he approached the house under the cover of night, Lon's heart pounded with a mix of anger and resolve. He found Mara's father alone, a man who appeared broken by his own choices, his face etched with lines of regret and sorrow. The confrontation was immediate and intense, with Lon's presence filling the room with a palpable sense of retribution. You sold your own daughter, Lon accused, his voice barely containing his fury. You traded her life for your own gain. There is no crime more heinous. Mara's father, his eyes widening in fear, stumbled over his words. I had no choice, he pleaded, his voice trembling. I was desperate. Lon cut him off, his decision clear. Your choices led Mara to a fate she did not deserve. For that, there must be justice. The moral dilemma weighed heavily on Lon. He knew that delivering death was a final, irreversible act, yet the betrayal of a father towards his own child demanded a severe response. He contemplated the man's plea, the desperation in his voice, but the image of Mara, traded away like a mere object, hardened his heart. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences, Lon declared. With a swift motion, he drew his weapon, the blade reflecting the moonlight streaming through the window. Mara's father's pleas turned to sobs, but Lon's mind was made up. With a swift, decisive movement, he delivered the sentence he believed to be just. As Mara's father slumped to the ground, Lon stood over him, his expression one of grim resolve. The deed done, Lon left the house as silently as he had arrived, the weight of his actions heavy upon his soul. Justice, in his eyes, had been served, But the path of vengeance was a dark and lonely one. His next target was the king of Euro, and Lon knew that the confrontation would be far more challenging and perilous. The confrontation with the king of Euro was set to be the culmination of Lon's quest for vengeance. The castle of Euro loomed ahead, a fortress of deceit and corruption that housed the treacherous ruler. Lon, fully aware of the dangers that lay within those walls, had meticulously prepared for this moment. The hunters, his allies in this cause, were ready to storm the fort, united in their purpose to bring down the deceitful witch lord. As night fell, the hunters gathered around the perimeter of the castle. The air was tense with anticipation, each member clad in armor, their weapons ready. Lon, leading the charge, gave a final nod to his comrades. This was more than a mission, it was a reckoning. With a coordinated effort, the hunters launched their assault on the castle. The element of surprise was on their side, and the initial breach into the castle walls was swift and brutal. The hunters moved like shadows, their presence a silent but deadly force sweeping through the fort. The castle's guards, caught off guard, were quickly overwhelmed. Lon led his group deeper into the heart of the fortress, his every step driven by the resolve to confront the witch lord. The sounds of battle echoed through the stone corridors, a symphony of retribution for the wrongs committed. As they made their way to the throne room, the resistance grew fiercer. The witch lord's elite guards confronted them, their loyalty to their ruler unshaken. But the hunters, skilled and unyielding, fought with a ferocity born of their righteous cause. Finally, they reached the throne room, where the witch lord awaited. He stood tall, a figure of dark power, his gaze fixed on Lon. The air crackled with tension, the final showdown between justice and betrayal about to unfold. Without a word, Lon charged forward, his fellow hunters at his side. The battle that ensued was fierce and unforgiving. The witch lord, wielding dark magic and a sword imbued with malevolent energy, fought with a desperation to maintain his rule. But Lon and the hunters matched his every move. They fought not just with their weapons, but with the strength of their conviction. As the battle reached its climax, Lon found an opening. With a powerful strike, he brought the witch lord to his knees, ending the rule of the corrupt ruler. The castle of Eurot, once a symbol of deceit and power, had fallen. The hunters stood victorious, their mission accomplished. As they exited the castle, leaving behind the ruins of the wicked fort, Lon felt a sense of closure. Justice had been served, the deceitful ruler vanquished. The path of vengeance had been dark and fraught with peril, but it had led to this moment of triumph.